Public Health and Service Safety Committee to order July 22nd, 2018. May I have a roll?
January.
January.
You said July.
We wish it was July.
Yeah. Well, the weather feels like
Excuse me for that. We'll have to, January
much.
22nd,
Yeah.
2018. May I have a roll call, please?
Chairman Gita,
Here.
Vice Chairman Palafis.
Present.
Trustee Newell.
Present.
Trustee Mills.
Present.
Trustee Stanton.
Present.
Trustee Arnett.
Present.
Mayor McLeod.
Present.
And we have a quorum. Thank you. Number 2, approval of minutes December 11th, 2017.
So moved.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Any additions, corrections? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Under new business, we have 6 items. Item number 1, request authorization to waive formal bidding and purchase a 2018 Ford Utility Police Interceptor, AWD, for the fire department through the Northwest Municipal Conference Suburban Purchasing Cooperative Contract for Carey Motors, Frankfurt Incorporated, Frankfurt, Illinois, in the amount of $31,074.
So move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any questions up here?
New car already?
I was just going, and Chief,
I told him the timing was not.
would you like to add anything to that?
Basically, this is the replacement of the Fire Car 4, which is our oldest Crown Victoria that's still in the fleet. So almost 137,000 miles.
Time to get rid of it. All right. Thank you. Any questions up here? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Chief. Number 2, request authorization to award contract for entry-level patrol officer testing to COPS and FIRE Personal Testing Service, Schaumburg, Illinois, in the amount not to exceed $17,200.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Chief, would you explain some of this, especially for the viewers that don't know what COPS and fire?
Sure. Cops and Fire is a company out of Schaumburg that does police and fire testing for new recruits and promotions. For, our current patrol officer eligibility list expires this year. So we contacted 3 companies for estimates, and Cops and Fire were the lowest bidder. We've used them in the past for both patrol officer testing and promotional testing and have been very happy with them. They, one of the big things they allow testing on Sundays. They test on Sundays. So that makes a big difference for us because most municipalities test on the Saturday, and then officers or candidates have to choose what town they're going to test for. This, we think, broadens our candidate pool.
And we rely on their testing, and also they do one other thing, and I'm just trying to recall.
The polygraphs.
The polygraph, that's it. And it's the same company that does the polygraph, correct?
Correct, and they've kept the prices the same since 2016. They did not raise the price.
Oh, that's excellent. Any questions from the board? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, Chief. The rest are monthly reports. Number 3, request acceptance of the Police Department monthly report. I need a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussions here? Chief, what would you like to add?
Nothing to add, sir.
Nothing to add. Yes?
Chief, we had a missing persons the other day. What happened on that?
Correct, we're still looking. They haven't been found yet, but we do not believe they're in danger.
Okay.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Number 3. Number 4, request acceptance of the Health and Human Services monthly report.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Dr. Savidra? Nothing to add from up here? Nothing? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Number 5, request acceptance of the Emergency Management Coordinator monthly report.
So moved.
I
Second.
have a motion and a second. Any questions whatsoever? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Number 6, request acceptance of the Fire Department monthly report.
So moved. I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Chief, would you like to add anything to that?
Nothing to add.
I do. I have a letter to read. It says the firefighters who responded to the home fire on Christmas Eve, Christmas. We would like to extend our deepest appreciation and gratitude for your heroic efforts in saving our home. We appreciate your sacrifice to foregoing the time with your family to be available to all of us in the community. We will further be grateful for your efforts, and we will keep you in our prayers, that you are always safe. Thank you, beyond the words, the Levine family. So would you pass that on to the firemen and so forth, right?
I will, and I think it was already copied to all the members that were on duty that day.
Oh, very good. Now we can let the public know what I just read. President's report?
Yes, I forgot to mention on, last week, on January 13th, I did attend the Code 3 for the fire on Dunmore. It's very informative. On Tuesday, the 16th, trustees Gata and Stanton and I went to the Mass at St. Hubert's and provided them with a proclamation honoring them for the great amount of food they had collected for the food pantry. They were their highest one in the church there, so they did a great job. On the 17th, I attended the legislative meeting of the Northwest Municipal Conference and also attended the Continental Breakfast and Performance of Marie Antoinette by the Senior Citizens Committee. And that evening, I attended the business after hours at Thumpka Indian Bar and Grill. On Saturday, this past Saturday, the 20th, we had our coffee with the council, which was very well attended again. And this afternoon, with Trustee Palafis, we taped an episode of The Heart of Hoffman Estates, dealing with the Higgins Education Center. So it was very, very enlightening to hear of all the many things they do, and Trustee Palafis is very involved in that, as is Jennifer Georgievic. So that's all I have.
Very good, thank you. Do we have nothing in other items in review and looking for an adjournment?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you.
I'd like to call to order the Finance Committee meeting for January 22nd, 2018. Could I have a roll call, please?
Chairperson Palafis.
Present.
Vice Chairperson Newell.
Present.
Trustee Gata.
Present.
Trustee Mills.
Present.
Trustee Stanton.
Present.
Trustee Arnett.
Present.
Mayor McLeod.
Present.
And we have quorum. Thank you. I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes from December 11, 2017.
So moved.
A motion and a second. Any questions, comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 1 under new business is request authorization to amend the Sunderledge House rental and use policy application for use form and indemnity hold harmless
So
hold
moved.
harmless agreement. Sorry.
So moved.
Second.
Trustee Mills?
In reading over the application, I just had a curiosity question. We allow people to have catering in the house. Do we require any proof of insurance or that from caterers? Is there a need for that? Is it something you might want to think of? I don't know how often you actually have a caterer on premises.
It's very rare that the building is
Okay.
rented, first of all.
Yeah.
What happened is the committee asked about it, then Patty Cross and I worked together based upon the draft that came over from the staff liaison and the committee.
Okay.
And really what we did is we made the hold harmless consistent with the one that's used here for Village Hall and for New Station 24's meeting room. That's the real thing. We don't require the insurance for caterers in this building either, Trustee Mills, so I will discuss that with
Okay, it was just a
legal.
curiosity question from other places I've worked
Right,
with.
and we also know for private individuals, most of the time their insurance wouldn't cover it anyway. So we'll double check that.
Okay, thank you.
That's a good question.
Trustee Newell?
I was just wondering if maybe we could add a little space. I know it's kind of tight on the application. We have telephone and it says home or work, but a lot of people have cell phone. And if they take a look at it and they see home and work, they don't know what to put in there.
90% of the time, instead of home, we get cell. So all that they
Okay.
do is put a C on there. If we want us to amend the form, we can.
Well, I was just wondering, because when somebody sees
It's surprising to
home,
us how many people don't have home phones anymore. And
they don't.
That's
A
right.
lot of ours don't, but
So
when
the
you
home
say
is-
home,
Right.
they think, well, I don't have one, so then they don't know if they should put a cell.
We
I
can,
don't
we
know.
can, we can add, we can add it.
I just thought maybe just
That's
add a
fine.
little
We'll do
space
that.
for cell.
Yep.
Just wondering.
It's the same people that don't have living rooms. Trustee Stanton,
Ouch.
having a little fun.
A curiosity
Nobody's
question. I think almost everybody has living rooms anyway, by the way.
All right-thinking people have living rooms, right?
Yeah, it's all the left-thinking people that don't. How many people actually do rent out the Sunderledge Farm house?
It's more than, I don't think it's more than a handful a year.
Yeah, it's only a few times a year that we
Yes.
have a non-village event, non-village sponsored event that rents it out. So it's not like a large revenue.
Right. Unlike the space is dramatically different there versus here, and then the size of group you could have. So that's why this building always has something going on in it.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions, comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Item number 2, request acceptance of the Finance Department monthly report for November and December.
So moved. Second.
Any questions, comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it, motion carried. Item number 3, request acceptance of the Information System Department monthly report.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Item number 4, request acceptance of the Sears Center monthly report for December and January.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. President's report.
Yes, one item I forgot to mention was the concert by the Choral Airs on the 17th at Village Hall here that most of us had the opportunity to attend. This is a a cappella singing group composed of over 100 women. We didn't have 100, we had a pretty good representation, and
Yeah.
they've won prizes in Las Vegas, and they were 8th in the world. They're very good, so hopefully we'll get them out here again. Many of the people live in this area or close to it, and Andrea Sonnenberg, one of our longtime residents, is a member. That's all I got.
Awesome. Thank you. In other, I just wanted to let you all know we had a Plots concert meeting today, and we, in the budget, added a line item to add Sunday, which we voted on to add. So we already have the tent. Everything's out there. So we're going to extend the event to another day of fun. We have note items in review, and we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Okay, I would like to call the Public Works and Utility Committee of January 22nd, 2018 to order. May I have a roll call, please?
Chairperson Newell,
Present.
Vice Chairperson Gata,
Present.
Trustee Palafis,
Present.
Trustee Mills,
Present.
Stanton,
Here, to be
Trustee
different.
Harnett,
Present.
Mayor McLeod.
Present.
All right, we have a quorum, and we're here. Next item would be the approval of minutes from December 11th, 2017.
So moved.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any changes, corrections? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
No nays, motion passed. And under new business, we have 7 items. Item number 1 is consider ordinance approved and an extended, amended, and restated water supply agreement between the Northwest Suburban Joint Action Water Agency, JAWA for short, and the Village of Hoffman Estates.
So moved.
A second.
I have a motion and a second. Mr. Norris, do
I'd
we
be
have
happy to
anything
respond to any questions. The initial agreement between the Joint Action Water Agency and the member communities was going to expire in 2022. What precipitated moving up the extension was 2 things. First, the renegotiation of a source agreement with the city of Chicago, which, as you hopefully saw, locked in their the fact that they cannot raise rates like they have in the past of anything more than either 5% or the CPI, whichever is less. Very beneficial term, and also took out the minimums. The original agreement was done at a time where water usage was expanding annually, and through water conservation devices, people becoming more educated, appliances, everything using water use has leveled, and in fact, actually, other than the current year and one other year in the last 10, it's actually been decreasing at approximately around 1% per year. So the minimums were becoming a problem for the agency. We had communities that actually weren't buying their minimums and they were having to be billed for it. We were not one of those communities, but the minimums were removed. The other reason is that with the widening of the tollway and Jawa having to move the main transmission main running out from the airport, the Toll Highway Authority is shouldering that debt as of right now from carrying it, but we're paying them that debt, Jawa is. And when our current debt does run off in a couple of years, we will be having to issue new debt. It's hard to issue new debt where you have the agencies paying, they are the source of revenue to pay that debt if you don't have member agreements that compel them to do so beyond what was going to be the 2022 term. So it's important to do that. All member communities are being asked to pass the same agreement. It's been reviewed by both the executive committee, which is comprised of the village managers. It then went to 2 different meetings of the attorneys for each community to review and have their input, and ours did. And it then went to the board of directors of the Joint Action Water Agency, which is the mayors and/or the alternate. They reviewed it, and then they recommended it to the communities for approval, and that's why it's in front of you this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Norris. Trustee Stanton, did you have your hand up? Yes?
I did. Mr. Norris
that answer
answered part of the question, yeah, by the CPI versus and 5%, because I was concerned about how high they could actually raise the rates. What happened to us looking into a different agency, though?
We are, and we continue to do that. The lead time on that, to engineer and build a pipeline is a decade, almost a decade-long experience. As we continue to look at it, and we are looking at it with a neighboring water agency, the bigger issue is, do you go through a community that already has a water plant and treats it in a pipe and build a pipe from wherever they can get it to out to your communities? Or do you look at, to use the engineering vernacular, do you put your own straw in? That is why it sounds more difficult. The difficult part is finding the location along the lakefront where you actually can find property to do so in a community that's willing to let you do that, but it's way more financially beneficial. So those are all being looked at and will be looked at during this next term.
And then could we opt out of the contract with Jawa?
What we're looking at now is not leaving Jawa. We're looking at Jawa morphing, either being the same agency but just with a different source of water.
I see.
It would be very hard for us to leave Jawa given the infrastructure that's in the ground. The standpipes that are on Higgins are theirs. Ours as a member of Jawa. So at this point, it's probably our best and most economical model is to look at Jawa doing something with another agency and getting their own straw and a different source. And long term, we don't know that Chicago might not ultimately, that many years from now, be a better option. So while we're going to look at all those options, we have a joint engineering agreement right now with the Northwest Water Commission and an engineering company who's studying these things for us.
Okay. And the cost of the water variation, do you think that's going to make much difference at all as far as between Chicago and the other one?
It does make a difference. It is still cheaper, for example, to go to an Evanston and get the water. It's even more cheap if you can put your own straw in and draw it yourself.
Sure. And I had one other question, and I'm kind of having a senior moment here. I'll let someone else ask the question and get back to me.
Trustee Palafis?
I'll kill some time while you think about it. Does the Evanston Water Source or any of the others have a Jawa-like consortium?
Evanston, they don't, but they provide water to communities beyond Jawa.
There's the Northwest Water Commission, which is made up of, it's a Jawa-like entity, but it's a little bit north of us, and they get their water from Evanston right now. So they have a similar agreement with Evanston as we do with the city of Chicago. So if we were to look at Evanston, it's, okay, do we buy it from Chicago as Jow, or do we buy it from Evanston, or as Mr. Norris explained, build our own water treatment plant, hire staff, all that. Those costs up front were significantly higher, but longer term, after 10 years, once those are paid off, then you're not paying anybody for your for
And it
the
also
water
made,
at that
it also
point.
made a difference if we partnered with the Northwest Water Commission as equals. Right now, the cost they're paying for water is dramatically cheaper than we're paying.
What-
And there's many other water agencies. You got the DuPage Water Commission, you got the Central Lake County Water
Lake
Commission.
County
There's many-
Jawa, there's Lake County Jawa.
Right, so there's a lot of them, but proximity to the Northwest Water Commission makes them the most likely partner.
Who's the closest village or city that is non-Chicago to us?
Well, Northwest
Palatine.
Water Commission serves Palatine.
Palatine?
Right.
Is not Chicago water?
There's Chicago Water, but through Evanston. I mean, there's Lake Michigan Water through Evanston.
Oh.
And the Northwest Water Commission is Buffalo Grove, Arlington Heights,
true.
Wheeling, and Palatine.
So we would only have to get connections from here to wherever Palatine hooks in.
We, as in Hoffman Estates?
Yes.
Yes. We, as in Jawa, it's a lot different because the Jawa footprint goes much further east. So it's a different engineering. You would probably end up having two different delivery alternatives for under that. That's all this is what's being studied. So it's
So could we, with some relative, short time, connect up to the Evanston water source?
we have to take, under the Chicago agreement, we have to take 100% of our water from Chicago during the term of
Until
agreement.
2022?
No, until the new agreement that was done with Chicago. Unless we opt out of Jawa,
Right. So if we opt out of Jawa,
then you have no source of water.
and then we
don't wanna do
join
that.
Northwest,
Can't.
whatever Palatine's in, so then what are we talking about? If we can't do all of these things, what are we really voting on?
You're voting on extending your membership in the Joint Action Water Agency. That's all you're talking about tonight.
For what? There's no other option, right?
No,
True or false?
no. The options come with the Water Commission, okay, with Jawa to look at other options with either the Northwest Water Commission as a whole, or our own straw, or Glencoe has a treatment plant, they pump water to people. All those are options. The amount of water, right now, we've looked at having a cross connection with Palatine. We're looking at that, but we're looking at that as municipal system to municipal system. But we can only use that water in the event of emergency. For Jawa and Northwest Central to do a connection, it's a much larger transmission mains to larger transmission mains. It's, they can do that, but again, it can only be used for emergency. It could not be during the term of the agreement with Chicago.
But if,
Schaumburg, for example, has a cross connection with DuPage Water Commission,
right.
only through emergency.
But if we wanted to connect up like Palatine to get cheaper water from the same water source, which is Lake Michigan, what would it take to do that?
It'll take a cross connection, but you cannot use it unless it's an emergency. That's why we came to you a couple
You'd have-
months ago and said,
You'd have to leave Jawa.
So, okay, we're on the right path, so we'd have to leave Jawa and then what?
another water source that could deliver how many million gallons a day?
4 million gallons a day on average, so, and our peak is probably 8 to 9 million gallons a day, and Jawa owns the infrastructure that supplies Western Hoffman Estates.
Right.
Including the 2 standpipes along Higgins.
Right.
So we would have to come up with some alternative means of supplying Western Hoffman Estates, and that might be if we left Jawa an agreement to purchase that from Jawa, because at that point, they really don't have a need for it, because it supplies
Streamwood.
Hoffman, mostly. Streamwood goes, it shoots down.
There is no reason for Jawa to sell us anything ever.
Right, no, I understand that. I'm just saying that if the question was asked, what would it take?
And then take an agreement with Elgin to get river water.
No, thank you.
And then you're commingling sources, which we cannot do under our Lake Michigan water allocation permit. So then you'd have to separate your water systems into two separate systems, and you couldn't cross-connect them. So that's why I'm saying there's certain opportunities that are opportunities, and then there's other opportunities that really aren't, just because of other agency rules and laws.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Jim knows much more about this than I do, but I just wanted to comment a little bit about the legal structure. When you use the term JAWA, that's an intergovernmental agreement, and JAWA is really us, along with some others. And so if you're pulling out of JAWA, that's just a partnership, so you're going to leave a partnership and kind of have to go with another partnership. And there's already a lot of money that's been invested over the years in this partnership, that if you walk away, we're not certain you get that money back. You might just have to leave it. I know this new agreement had provisions in it which prior agreements did not have.
And you're responsible for that. He's the one who wanted them to add that in.
But
Rightfully so.
Yeah, so it's not like we could just pick up, like we're buying gasoline from Shell, and we're going to stop buying gasoline from Shell, and we're going to go start buying it from Citgo.
Right.
That's not really what it is. It's a group of people, a group of municipalities that got together as a partnership. They put in infrastructure, and they entered into a contract with the city to buy water. And so it gets kind of complicated. You just can't pick up and move.
Mayor?
Isn't there debt that Java has?
Yeah,
That we own?
that's what I was going
Portion
to,
of,
absolutely.
That debt, we'd have to pay that anyway.
Not only the debt that runs out in a couple years, but the tollway debt we just had, the $63 million, a portion of that's ours, which to leave the agency, you have to pay your debts. So they're real, as bluntly as I can say, there is no real viable option other than JAWA for us. Once the decision was made 25 years ago, whatever it was, Mayor.
Early 80s.
Early 80s to go into JAWA, that our die was cast. The next opportunity is to look at, and believe me, every community that's part of JAWA now wants to get cheaper water from potentially a source other than Chicago. But that's based upon what we know today and what we've experienced the last decade. Be careful about that in 10 years from now, because things could change very easily.
The infrastructure that would be needed to purchase for if Nissim Jawa, which is our Jawa, stayed together and whole, the amount of water that we would need and the amount of infrastructure that would have to occur to get our water from, say, Northwest Water Commissioner from Evanston, you're looking at like $100 million. We're talking deep tunnels, we're talking a ton of easements, years and years of acquiring properties and that kind of thing. So it's not something that can just happen easily if we stayed with Nissim Jawa.
So $100 million from the consortium.
That
It's more than that, actually.
It could be. That was like the initial, if we wanted to purchase our water from somewhere else. So you have to look at, okay, if we want to buy our water from a different company and it's cheaper water, but there's an upfront cost, a significant upfront cost that has to be weighed into that equation.
In the preliminary analysis that was done and completed last year, which caused us to move to phase 2, showed that with the issuance of bond and 25 years of debt, it was still 30+% cheaper to do that. But you have to have, while you're doing that, the 8 years or 10 years it takes to do the engineering, acquire the right-of-way or the easements to put the pipes in, and build it, you still have to have water from somewhere else. And that's why we're here, really why we're here today.
Trustee Mills?
So, in other words, unless all the communities banded together to dissolve JAWA and go to a different source, we're stuck but we can go to someone else looking more or less for emergency water in case, and so our dependence on the Jawa lines a little lessened in case of an emergency.
Sure, and that's why we talked about doing the interconnect with
Right.
Elgin, that we're still working on that agreement with them, which has been difficult, and I only say that because we have a full house. We're looking at Palatine as for up north.
Right. So we'd have to have more than one agreement.
We're gonna, yes, right. We don't need it as much in the central part of the community. Why? Because we have so much above ground and ground level storage. Up north, while we have water tanks, they're not humongous water tanks, and we don't have enough storage to survive a 2-day, 3-day event.
What do
So-
you make it a day?
Right. So that's the issue for us. And the same is true we're a little bit better out west. because
Out west, we're set.
We're set, right. We still wanted the Elgin Interconnect just for, because there's a whole nother, we're getting way afield here, but it's actually good education information. There's a whole nother level of issue that we have as a community in that even though we're no longer drawing from the aquifer, the underground aquifer, through our wells to supply our community, if we have to do that for emergency reasons, the amount of testing and probably boil notices and everything that we would have to go through to use that water on an ongoing basis is,
We
don't wanna do it,
When the
honestly.
village used to draw deep well water or groundwater, there were a lot less rules and regulations from the EPA. Specifically with deep well water, you deal with radiological barium, radium issues. If your deep well water is your source, you have a treatment plant that does ion exchange water softening, and you soften that water, you take all that out. We have none of that infrastructure really. So our wells are there, we can kick them on, we can fire them up and get water out. Can be used fine short-term, it wouldn't be an issue at all. We may or may not have to issue a boil order, depending on the pressure, but the EPA would not allow us to use that water for very long unless we did public notification on the radionuclides that are in the water and that kind of thing, so.
Okay.
Trustee Stanton?
Thanks. The agreement, if we do the ordinance today, is to what, 2032 or 2058?
hold on a second, I lost my, it timed out.
I mean, they
on
talk
me.
about 2032 here from City of Chicago, which has an initial term through 2032, but,
That's the source agreement.
okay, so, but the agreement with Jawa would be to stay with them
40
till
years.
2058.
It's 35 years, I think, is what we talked about from the 2022. So is that the 58?
Yeah,
Yes.
40 from now, because you put in the memo, 40.
yeah, okay.
This agreement shall have a term of 40 years from the contract date.
Right.
Technically, we couldn't get away from Chicago, the agreement with Chicago until 2032.
That's correct. And we know it's going to take that much time to pull this all together. and
Okay.
Construct it,
Assuming it's the right thing to do.
assuming it's the right option at that time.
Yeah. All right, that answers my questions, thanks.
Trustee Palafis, did you have anything additional or not?
No, he's been asking my questions all
Oh,
night.
okay.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Two Garys.
One other thing,
Got it.
One step ahead on everyone.
one other thing, if I could point it out, is that our issues as a village aren't with Jawa. Our issues as a village are with Chicago.
Agree.
Jawa's been a really, I think Joe would agree, they've been a fantastic partner. And but for them, things was much worse. Jawa actually issued debt when Chicago started doing the heavy rate increases to absorb those rate increases for the first couple of years to level the payment. So they've been a really good partner for the village.
Okay, thank you, everyone. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
No nays, motion passed. Item number 2, request approval of an ordinance prohibiting the use of groundwater as a potable water supply by the installation or use of potable water supply wells or by any other method at 615 West Higgins Road, 535 West Higgins Road, and portions of Gulf and Higgins Road, IDOT.
So moved.
Second?
I have a motion and a second. Any questions or anything additional to add to this? Trustee Palafis?
Are these Jawa served?
If they're in our town, they're was served.
Just kidding. You're trying to lighten it up a little.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. See, you got it.
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
No nays, motion passed. Item number 3, request approval of change order number 1 to the contract with Boulder Contractors of Cary, Illinois for the West Berkeley Lane Storm Sewer Replacement Project in an amount of $57,225 for a total not to exceed $564,185.
So moved.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Now, do you have anything to add to that?
Just want to
Alan,
add
yes,
to,
no?
yeah, sure. The change order would have applied to any of the bidders that we had, so this extra cost would have also been the same if the second or third bidder, so the low bidder cost still remained our best choice for this.
Any questions up here? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
No nays, motion passed. Item number 4, request authorization to extend 2016 contract for 2018 Brevo hosting fees for village facilities to Sound Incorporated, which is out of Naperville, Illinois, the low bid, at a cost not to exceed $21,937.32.
So moved.
Second.
Oh, okay, we have a motion and a second. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
No nays, motion passed. Item number 5, request authorization to waive bidding and purchase Neptune meters from Water Resources, Inc., out of Elgin, Illinois, which is the sole supplier, at 2018 unit prices in an amount not to exceed $215,000.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
No nays, motion passed. Item number 6, request acceptance of the Department of Public Works monthly report.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have anything additional?
Nothing to add?
Nothing? Okay. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
No nays, motion passed. Item number 7, request acceptance of the Department of Development Services monthly engineering report of the Transportation and Engineering Division.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have anything to add? Nothing?
Nothing net?
Oh, good. Okay, that's good. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
No nays, motion passed. Any additional for Mr. President?
Nothing else, Chairperson.
Okay, thank you. Nothing under other or items in review. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
No nays, motion passed. We are adjourned.